Butterfly, butterfly, pretty butterfly. When I see you flap your wing, I know when it's time for spring. Butterfly, butterfly, pretty butterfly.
Hi everyone, this is Honest Participants Only. I can never get it out right straight away. This is the Honest Participants Only podcast, and I'm back again to discuss human-driven engagement. And I have two amazing panelists to join me today to discuss that topic with. So, hello to Nazmin. Hi Naz, how are you doing?
Hi Shae. Hi Shae. Thank you so much for inviting me to your really, really lovely podcast.
No problem. I'm really looking forward to doing this with you. And also, we've got Cathryn. Hi, Cathryn.
Hi there. Hi. Thanks so much for inviting me. Really looking forward to today and to see what we're going to be covering in this topic.
Oh, honestly, this is a topic, and I was saying it to you guys before in the green room. I don't think everyone can speak to this topic. So you were top of my list, and I'm so glad you both said yes. So let's do this. Naz, tell us about you. Who are you? What do you do, etc., so on and so forth.
So my name is Nazmin, and I'm a solicitor working for National Pharmacy Association in their legal department. And on my day-to-day basis, I deal with clinical negligence claims relating to pharmacy dispensing errors and any just general pharmacy malpractice. And it's a trade association I work for, and there's a lot of things that we can get involved with because it's a trade association that represents independent pharmacies and pharmacists across the country. I'm also an elected councillor for Bedwell Ward in Stevenage, a job I really, really enjoy the most because it allows me to work in the community, work in Stevenage and work on various issues that affects our residents and to play a small part in determining the future of our beautiful town.
Thank you so much. Honestly, you're awesome. That's all I'll say on that. And Cathryn, do you want to tell us about you and the amazingness that is you?
Where to start? I'm a leadership and career coach. My background, my early career was spent in corporates, and I was fortunate to work through pretty much all the different departments in the organisations that I worked in till I found the place where I felt I really belonged, and that was very much people-centric. I was born in the UK but grew up in South Africa, and when I returned to England in '99, I joined the startup world in Cambridge, so there was a lot happening there. I worked with some university spin-outs and other VC-funded companies, and that really was where I think I found myself. So it was people and it was small businesses. It was connecting with others, helping identify where it was they wanted to get to, and then helping them on that journey. About 15 years ago, I did my coaching training and now focus on career coaching. So that's everything from a new graduate going into their first role and wanting to have an external sounding board to help them map out their career and achieve their dreams, right the way through to a company chairman or woman who is working out what they want to do for their final legacy project. It's the dream job. I've designed it, and I love that my job is helping people find their dream jobs as well.
Oh, I love that so much. And I'll say to everyone listening or viewing this, you can see why these are the people I chose to be on this panel. Before we move on, I'm going to move us around. I would like you two to be at the top. Excellent. That's better. So, today we're going to be discussing human-driven engagement. And with the work that both of you do, it's quite obvious that you come across this kind of need to engage in a humanitarian way. I don't know if that's quite the right word to use, but Cathryn, you were just talking about the fact that you engage with people all the way from, people who leave their studies and they're just getting into the workforce, and those who are at the end of their kind of, you know, career and potentially are going to be retiring, or they just want to leave something good in the world. And I know that you have a background kind of in HR as well. And I just wanted to address the fact that, and if you have anything to add, the fact that even HR isn't called HR anymore. It's called, what's the term I use?
There are so many different terms. Head of people and culture. It's diversity, quality, inclusion all comes into that. No, it's definitely not that sort of that sort of human resources. I think actually you're raising an interesting point, because that human resources was almost you couldn't use those two words together. It was so unhuman. So this really is about people. It's about engagement. It's about humanity, a human-centric approach. Yeah, absolutely. HR got such a bad name.
It really did. It really did. And I've had chronic illness for most of my life. And when I worked at Cancer Research Campaign before they became Cancer Research UK, because they merged with Imperial Cancer. And I used to have to go and see HR, because that was before I understood some of my chronic illnesses and I didn't have diagnoses and stuff. And it would just fill me with dread, right? But actually here we're talking about human-driven engagement, and we're talking about, that particular part, we were talking about human resources. It should have filled us with something a bit safe, right? We should have felt that we were safe going to this place to have this conversation. But you're so right. It got a bad rap, and it hasn't.
And it still does. It still does. The clients that I work with, their view of their, generally their human resources departments leaves so much to be desired. It's moved so far away from helping people in the organisation to give of their best and to work towards this common goal. It couldn't be further from that. And the more data-driven it becomes, and I understand the need for the role of data, but the more data-driven it becomes, the further away we get from actually getting to the heart of helping people make a difference.
So in that vein then, do you think, and this can be to both of you, do you think that this is a phase? Do you think that the focus on human-driven connection, engagement, all of the things, do you think it's just another buzzword that's out there that we will ruin and it will become like HR, and we will then move on to something else? Or do you think there's something in it?
I mean, terminology in the workplace definitely has been changing over time. Same goes with HR. We also do have just very recently at National Pharmacy Association, we had a team called the facilities team. Now it's been rebranded to the workspace team to give a bit more depth to, actually they do more than just taking care of the facilities. They actually do take care of more the general day-to-day of what goes on in our workplaces. So the workspace team, that's what we've had it rebranded. And I think it's just making it a bit more clearer as well. So for suppose if somebody was to join from abroad, an organization, for them to understand, okay, like I'll give an example of facilities. HR might be more of a universal term, but facilities might not necessarily be a universal term. Facilities, which department is that? What do they do there? So for us to actually have more clearer words so that people do understand better. And again, from an engagement point of view, it's always when we're having discussions with people, even if it's those who are working in these relevant departments, okay, what is it that you feel that you can identify yourself with? Because at the end of the day, we're all very different from one another. Our perceptions are very different from one another. And unless you're working in a particular role, how is it that you want us to portray? How is it that you want us to engage? And how do we collectively work together and come up with a solution? So that was an example I had, which I noticed very recently in one of my workplaces. We've had a department have a name change.
Yeah. Yes. I've got a couple of things there. One is around 3/4 of the clients who come to me for career coaching come from different backgrounds. So they've never worked in, or they've worked in the UK, but they started their career in a different country, and they just reach out for that opportunity to say, "Hey, this is what I'm struggling with. I come from India and I'm told to bring my lunch into work, and I bring it in and everybody goes, oh, what's that smell?" Because they're all sitting, they could be sitting there eating, avocado and falafel wraps and or sandwiches or other things. But there's this kind of, you don't want to, you want to fit in, you don't want to stand out, you want to be embraced.
You're right. I think it's this whole thing of fitting in. Another work culture thing as well, when employers are interviewing. Sometimes if there might be a lot of candidates who have a lot of similar experience, similar education level, but there is an element where they see, will they be able to fit into our workplace?
Yeah.
How's their personality like? Because as I say, and I've heard it numerous times from senior level when they say, oh, they might be really fantastic at their job, they might be highly educated, but will they fit in with the people? Because one bad apple, that can rot the entire fruit bowl. That's an example I've heard in the past. But I think, is it sometimes we're so scared to be different because we don't want any attention? Because I think it's quite nice, actually, if someone did come into work with a food that I've never actually had before, and the curiosity element, oh, what is it that you're having? Sometimes it can be an icebreaker as well.
Yes.
Getting to know someone, like even food brings us all together, actually.
It does. So I think that point there of will they fit in? I mean, maybe that question needs to be, how do we make sure they fit in? Because they are bringing experience or talent, expertise that we're wanting. So how do we make sure that they, if they come from a different phase, a different background, if they, maybe want to pray during the day, how do we maybe need to adapt? How do we need to adapt the business to introduce more diversity into the business? I think going back to that initial question, Shae, around this, this human, what was it? Human driven engagement.
Yeah, it's a phase.
Yes. So that is a phrase. Is it something that's a phase and a fad and will move? To me, it's a movement, and it encompasses probably the majority of other social movements as well. And how can we make any progress on any of the issues that are being highlighted where we are today, whether it's the Me Too movement, the Black Lives Matter, any of those movements, if it's not done from a human-centric place, if it's not done from a place of share your story, share your lived experience, because that's how we become educated. That's how we can recognize our own prejudices or our own privileges even, and go, okay, I'm learning something here. So to me, yes, we might end up with a different term a few years from now, but nothing gets away from the fact that the only thing that is going to bring us together, whether it's at a community level or globally, is going to be through recognizing our shared humanity.
Well, that's really well said, actually. Absolutely, because it does start with one movement. It does start with one voice. And one thing I've learned is, whether it's working in the community or working in corporate, people sometimes don't understand the value of how that one voice can make a difference. And it is starting with a movement. One voice can actually encourage other people to speak on things. Actually, this is my view. What do you think? Sometimes differing views are not also bad as well. You get a different perception, you learn from it. And when all the voices start to get together, whether it's from street level, local level, from a town level, national level, international level, it does start a movement. And, it would be really good to see how far, this goes as well.
I agree. I think it certainly starts with one person. I think that the book that really helped me recognize that I needed to get out of myself and start being braver and forget about excuses in my mind, like my imposter syndrome, and just get out there and use my voice and talk to people. And so that book was Speaking Truth to Power by Jess Phillips. And what she talks about there was, she uses the Grenfell Collective as an example of, yes, we've got this message, this change needs to happen, or this message needs to get out there, but do it in an organized way. So, you can take an opposing view, you can be angry, you can, rightfully so, with so many of the injustices that have happened. But when you are going out there and campaigning for change, or campaigning for whatever it is, really know what your end goal is. Begin with that end in mind, and do it in that organized way. And that I just learned just reading that, what does the last step look like? You need a concrete plan to be able to get there. And it has to be more than just a grievance. Those were her points. And those really stuck with me as a foundation for bringing lasting change.
Honestly, both of you, I feel like we could speak on this one part of the topic all day. And I love hearing you both, because my interactions with you have been all focused on the kind of connection, the dynamic. We weren't just colleagues or friends. We were connecting in a different way. We can pretend to be colleagues and friends with everybody, but it doesn't stick. But I know that you both kind of operate in that way. And someone else, we've got a guest who's just joined us in the studio, someone else who operates in a very, very, very human-centered way is our guest, Adwoa. Hi. Oh, we can't hear you. You're muted. Hold on.
I'm muted. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Love the conversation. Love the conversation. Hello, ladies. How are you?
Hello.
It's lovely to meet you.
Lovely to meet you guys as well.
Hey, so Jess. Tell us quickly. Oh, hey, girl. So I hope you're okay with what I put down as your description, right? You gave me your name. Leader, visionary, entrepreneur. If I could have fitted more things on there, I would have. So tell us a bit about you. Just say hi to the people and let us know who you are.
Well, my name is Adwoa Ramsay. I loved how you put me down. Leader, visionary, entrepreneur. I think I am all those things. I am a minister in a church that me and my husband run. But I also run a few women's ministries. I'm also kind of helping people fulfill their dreams and kind of going after what they see in their heart to do. And so there's a plethora of things that I do, but I'm a mother of 3 amazing kids, the grandmother of one of the most talented young women in the world. She's 8, but she's everything. And then been married to my husband for 25 years. So just a little bit about me, nothing much.
And I'm going to do that annoying thing that people do. Does she not look like she's 25? Like,
I was going to say that as well. I just think, it looks like someone in their 20s, and then they're married to my husband for 25 years.
I take it all.
Thank you.
You have beautiful glowing skin, by the way, I have to say. Very youthful looks.
Thank you. I want to say it's my kids. They keep me young. Because to keep up with kids these days, even though all of my children are in their 20s, I just be like, oh, Jesus, I got to keep up with them. So I think that they help me stay youthful. And then my granddaughter always has me we do TikToks and we do stuff. So, life helps you keep that, that youthful grace about you.
Oh, well, thank you so much for joining us. I'm not going to expose anything, but obviously you were here, we're talking about human-driven engagement, and even the reason that you're late coming on is because you were engaging with, in a human-centered way with someone from your congregation. And that, again, is why I chose you. That's why I asked you, because all of you have this element of just being kind first before everything else. And that really comes through when engaging with you. So we've been talking about what human-driven engagement is, and whether we think it's a phase, whether we think it's just terminology, or whether the principle behind it is going to change. And that's what you came in on. But what I would love to know is, are there principles or tools, and I might actually put this in a thingamajig so that you all can see it. Are there principles or tools that you have or use that inform the way that you engage or interact? So here we go.
Oh. I love that. Are we to answer the question?
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
You know, obviously for me personally, being a Christian, there are a lot of things that I look at in my life. And I think one of the main things that I truly try and live my life by, the principle is, the Bible tells me that I have to love my neighbor as I love myself. And I think that that's a core principle for me, from the standpoint of, how would I want to be treated in every situation? Would I want to be treated fairly? Would I want to be looked at from a place of love instead of disdain and hate? And so that, for me, it fuels the way I interact with people, because I always remember, you remember you're human first. And so how would you want to treat someone, or how would you want them to treat you, should the shoe be on the other foot? Because I think so many times we can sit on high horses and we can pedal out how we feel about a situation, but we forget you may only be one move away from sitting in that same seat. So you have to be very careful about how you treat people. And yeah, for me, I think that's one of the core things. Like, I've always just had that heart drive that no matter even how I feel about the situation, I always think, Adwoa, it could be you. How would you want to be treated?
Yeah,
really well,
and I think even if you're not a Christian, even if you don't have faith or whatever it is, the principle stands, right? Yeah. Sorry, Naz, you were going to say something.
No, I was going to say, it was similar to myself as well. Like, as a Muslim woman myself, similar principles. I'm very scared of hurting someone or upsetting someone, or if my action, even if it was unknowingly, did something that didn't come up with a desired result, I'm scared of the day of judgment when I have to face my creator. And that person is there saying, you know, during their time here, this person really hurt me. And I do believe in the whole good deeds and bad deeds, that they do come about. Sometimes we have to pay for it here, and sometimes in the world thereafter. And that's something I think somewhere that's kept my heart a bit soft, because you can be. I think there is that misconception as well. People do think if you're soft-hearted, you're not strong-willed or strong-minded as well. Trust me, you can have that combination. And especially as women particularly, there's a lot of idea of how women should be portrayed like this. I don't know, strong-willed women, you can't, you know, survive. Or if you're a bit soft, then you can't. But I say these are certain principles, again, my faith being one as well, and my parents' upbringing. It's kept my heart quite soft with, I actually am very fearful, God-fearing, especially Allah-fearing, that I don't hurt someone, because it does come about. And I think that's the way I carry myself during my day-to-day as well. To have that compassion for the people you work with. And sometimes we're not saints, I'll be honest. There's no such thing as being saints. There are going to be people who do drive you crazy. There are people who drive you crazy, and you have to work with them. I try my best not to be, quite, rude or anything, because that's not what I was taught. I will never be very, very rude with someone. That's not how I've been taught, because I know one thing, I'll feel very guilty myself that, actually, if I spoke a bit out of how I normally would to someone, I would actually feel really sad myself, and I wouldn't be able to sleep all night thinking about it. But as I said, like, we do have our moments where we might have behaved in a way where maybe was a bit out of character, and it does make me feel guilty. But that's why there are certain, like, my faith and my parents' upbringing is something that tries to keep me on my toes. We're all human beings. We come from the same place, and we're going to go in the same place as well. So that's something I usually do.
Yeah, thank you so much. And this is really interesting. So let me ask you this, Cathryn. Is what Adwoa and Naz just said, is that about us having self-awareness? Because there's I might not want to, my intent might not be to hurt. But if I'm not even aware that I'm hurting you, I think I'm doing the best human-centered engagement ever. Is there something about self-awareness in that?
Yeah, If there isn't self-awareness, then what are you bringing to the party? You know, are you sleepwalking through life? And so I come from a very different place. I was brought up Catholic, and I'm now atheist. So I don't have that. You know, I'm not drawing on believing in that God or believing in that afterlife. You know, for me, it's about the here and now and about my conscience. Now, I know as well that, you know, all my religious upbringing, certainly, you know, that doesn't go away. So I can be atheist, but still going, cracky, if it was a day of judgment, what would, you know, what am I going to say? How am I going to defend myself? But I think you can be, you know, regardless of your religious or not upbringing, you can be a decent human being. And it comes back to humanity, it comes back to compassion, and it comes back to humility as well. So it's recognizing that, you know, I've got my views, my upbringing, my experiences. I will have some unconscious biases and prejudices, and I am very human in wanting to uncover what those are. And I know I get things wrong. I can, you know, try as I might to, you know, to say the right thing, but there are things I don't know yet. And I think that gives me the humility. It gives me the confidence to go out there and kind of be me, and know that I can make a mistake and apologize, and somebody might accept the apology, or they might go, oh, well, you're just one of those who thinks this or that. But, you know, I can live with that. And I know I've probably not directly answered your question, Shae. Can you ask that again? And
Yeah,
and it was about self-awareness, wasn't it? Yeah, it starts with self-awareness. It starts with wanting to understand more. So whether you are an 18-year-old student or a 64-year-old white CEO of a multinational corporation, if there are things out there that you're kind of getting the sense that you're not getting it, you're not understanding, rather than disagreeing or saying, oh yeah, I get it, or, you know, it's this newfangled thing, or it's politically correct, or whatever, just stop and read up about it, learn about it, talk to me, you know, just reach out to me on LinkedIn, and I'll have a chat with anybody who thinks I'm being left behind here. There's all of this stuff going on with all of these movements, and I just want to try and find a way forward, because I think, well, talk to any of the four of us. If anybody watching this is thinking, I just don't get it and I'd like to know more, because that is the first step. You know, we've got those 4 levels of change, aren't there, you know, towards conscious competence, unconscious competence. And it starts off with saying, wow, I don't know anything about that, and I'd like to know more.
This is why I love Cathryn, everybody. So, but also, I feel like I'm having to take one of the questions that I have much lower down, and I'm going to have to bring it up here, because everything that you've said, all 3 of you, really leads to this question. How do we bring people along? We've all got our principles. We all know what we believe and why we're doing this. We know our purpose. We know our why now, right? We understand. So Naz, with you being a counsellor, you understand why you're out there cleaning and coming back home dirty, and your mum's like, why are you covered in mud? You know why. You know why you were on a call with people who are in your congregation, and you're just like, what do you need? You know your why. Cathryn, you know that when you decided that, you said it was your dream career, you know that when you decided that this is how you wanted to impact the world, you know your why. Not everyone knows their why. So how do we bring people along with us? So let's start with you, Cathryn, if that's okay.
Sure. So number 1 is hearing their stories. So whether I'm working with an individual or a team of people, so I've been thinking back to Tuesday when I had a room full of people in a brilliant small business, and if once I've heard people's stories of where they're at and what they think, I've got that end goal in sight, and it's their goal, it's their shared goal. I can use their words and their experiences to help them move forward. So it's like this collective I go and stand in all of their shoes. I want to know, I want to understand, I question, I listen. And when I feel that I've got it, and it's not me thinking I've got it, I can then play it back and go, okay. So what you're saying is this, this, and this is why. And they go, yep, or, I wouldn't say angry, I'm livid, I'm furious. But using their language and their words definitely helps you bring them forward.
Yeah, thank you so much. Adwoa?
I love exactly what Cathryn said, because I feel like people's stories build communities. And I feel like if you are able to show them the impact of what this community and what their story can bring to the, let's say, the end result or the end goal, I think it will be so much easier to bring people along. I think so many times we try and bring people along by bashing them with why this is why you should do this. This is why you should love this. And it's like, well, why? Why should I love that? But if you come to me, like, even when I think about it, if you come to me as a grandmother and you say to me, your granddaughter in about 10 years, the one that you love, that you dote on, in 10 years, she's going to need X, Y, and Z. It brings me to a place where I'm like, well, wait a minute. This doesn't just benefit me, and it's not just something someone's trying to shove down my throat, but it's something that encompasses my community and my vision and my heart. And so,
she disappeared.
Sorry, I don't know what happened there. I think my mum tried to call me. Your moms just never get it. They never understand. I'm busy. Okay, but when you're able, exactly like what Cathryn said, when you're able to get the story and the heart behind where people are and where they're going, I think it's so much easier to help them come along with you. Do you know what I mean? I think community is everything. I think people want to feel community. Like, no matter where you go, they want to feel like they belong. They want to feel like I'm not being forgotten. And I think you do a disservice to people when you try and bring them somewhere, but you don't understand where they've been and what they've dealt with. So I fully agree with Cathryn. That's why she is who she is. And we just... Everybody is trying to call me, guys. What is happening? But
this is how popular you are.
That's my answer.
A lot of human-driven engagement.
Can I add something to what you were saying there? Because it was in the news yesterday, and it was about, I don't know whether you heard it, but it was about those 30 recommendations for the Windrush reform. Yes, and the previous Home Secretary agreed that all 30 of those recommendations were going to be taken on board. And yesterday, the new Home Secretary announced that 3 of them aren't going to be taken forward. And one of them was the recommendation to hold reconciliation events for the Windrush community. And I'm raging inside, absolutely raging, because having grown up in South Africa, so as a child in an apartheid regime where I was powerless, absolutely powerless to do anything, but I could see the injustices. To then see what Desmond Tutu did with the Truth and Reconciliation commission, where they brought together victims and perpetrators to tell their story. It doesn't, I'm going to say it doesn't cost anything. Of course, it costs to be able to do that, but to bring that to bring people together to truly show understanding, that to me changes the future, changes, we can write new history.
Cathryn, let me give you the Nobel Peace Prize, girl. Let me give you the prize. Because I think that is, we want to force, this is a conversation. Nope, I'm not going to go there because I'll go down the rabbit hole. Go ahead. I'm done.
No, but you are right. It's so important having the reconciliation and people talking about it, because if we don't talk about what's happened in the past, how are we going to move forward in a future where there is tolerance and acceptance?
Yes.
And that's something, again, when you see on social media as well, social media, gosh, everybody's a keyboard warrior there. Some people will have, oh, is there any point talking about, you know, American history, slavery, Windrush? Is there any point talking about any of this? It's not relevant anymore. You know, we move on and we go. And now how can you move on when we haven't even addressed what's happened in the past?
Yeah. Honestly.
So again, it's accepting in every form, because the thing is, because you can't pick and choose which part of history you're going to accept and which part we're going to move on from. You have to address it all if you want to live in a society where there's tolerance and acceptance of everyone. Everyone should be made to feel welcomed and proud of where they belong from. And at the end of the day, we're all one human race. But if we don't talk about matters that's happened in the past, it's going to make you feel like, okay, that particular group is more favoured than the other. It shouldn't be like that.
So Naz, let me ask you this, because you made a good point about social media, and this is actually one of the questions. So when we talk about methods of engagement, it changes when we're in the workplace. So we kind of touch on HR and, you know, occupational health and all of these things. On social media, there are people putting out great content. Some of those become influencers and have millions of followers. Some of those have 30 followers, but they're still putting out great content. In the home, the way we engage is going to be different yet again. And then in our communities, it will change yet again. But you mentioned social media. This is my question to you, Naz. Are we owed engagement? Just because I put out really good content, am I owed a response? Am I owed celebration? Am I owed attention? What do you think there, Naz?
That's a very difficult question, but I think in this world, nobody owes anyone anything. I like to say it like that, like, because I think, okay, if we take an example of an influencer, they think, oh, automatically I've put something up, I should get about 100k likes straight away. It's not like, because sometimes I have seen some content that are fantastic and put on social media, but it's not had as much engagement. And then there's someone who might be a influencer with like about 20 million followers, and some of the content they put up might get a lot of engagement. So it's really hard to say. It all just depends on what content is put up and how much it is actually benefiting the community. And I said, sometimes the truth or something that's quite right, people might find it a bit boring and not engage on, or something if it's like a comedic scene or someone fell off, you know, someone's having an argument or fight somewhere, people are like, oh, this is quite juicy, let me have a look at it. So it all does vary when it comes to engagement. But I think since the introduction of social media, it's been a blessing and a curse at the same time. You'll have keyboard warriors out there as well, sometimes saying if you're doing something good, there'll always be someone who's not pleased with any decision. I think same goes with what happens in Stevenage. There's a lovely Facebook group here, the Stevenage Forum, and someone will put a post up. Okay, this is what's happening in town. You'll have a list of comments which are, oh, this is so exciting, this is happening to our town. Then you'll have a few, why is this being built? Why are we having this here? So it can go both ways. But when it comes to owing, I mean, as I said, in this world, nobody owes anyone anything. It's a sad thing to say. But I said, like, when I see on social media, you do see some fantastic content, but might not get the hits as it deserves. But I do think on social media, especially if you're someone who has a lot of following, there is a tiny bit of responsibility in what you put up could have an influence in a negative way or a positive way. And that's what it is. Do we look up to influencers as role models? Because there are some influencers out there who are actually doing fantastic work. And then I look up and I think actually what that person's saying really, really does touch my heart. I can give examples for myself as well. I do look up to Mufti Menk quite a lot because he's quite relatable, and quite a lot of younger people look up to because his tweets and stuff, they're not really specific to always religion. It is actually as an overall about as humanity. So there are some I do look up to, and you know, but again, it depends on what way you want to take it. Really, there's no right or wrong answer. It's a very difficult question, Shae.
Thank you so much. That was a great answer. I'm going to ask you, Adwoa, the answer to this question.
Girl, don't play with me. No, you are not owed engagement. This is one of the things, I am sorry, I agree with my sister so much. And I think she said it so eloquently. But I'm going to be her because I know what was in her heart. I know what's in her heart. This is one of the problems for me with the social media of today. This entitlement theory that we believe because I have expressed myself, I am due engagement. I am due, like you should come and follow me. It's just, I think the way that you worded it was perfect, because I think that that's the society that we live in now. We live in a society where we believe we are owed engagement for our opinions, no matter how crazy or how wonderful they are. And I think it goes on both spectrums. And I think, just like she was saying, there are some amazing things happening that get no recognition, and those people continue to just go by because their belief system is why they are pushing this thing out. It's not even necessarily that I need you to validate me, and I feel like that's what the engagements do. They're there to make you feel validated, and I feel like social media, like she was saying, it's a blessing and it's a curse, because I feel like it's heightened these narcissistic tendencies that we have. That it's like, pat me on the back because I said something that was triggering, or, you know, yes. So for me, no, you are not owed engagement. Do you have the right to share your opinion? 110%. Share your opinion, but you're not owed anything. Like I used to say to my kids, like, I don't owe you nothing. Like, homie, because I just I didn't want them to come up with this entitlement like mindset that says, just because I think this way or I'm here, you like, I just feel like that is just such an unhealthy way to live. And it's not just unhealthy on those who are following you, but it's unhealthy on yourself, because if you don't get the validation that you feel like you need, your life then becomes it becomes moved and swayed by a tick, by a comment, and by a like. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I'm sorry, guys.
No,
that's a great
really
answer.
well. Because
another thing sorry, no, go ahead.
The other thing was, is now that we're on the topic, again, sometimes I feel like some of the engagements are artificial as well. So you have someone put a post up on social media, then they'll message on the group chat with the link. Hi guys, I've put this on social media. Can you like, comment, and share, please? And
right.
That's not original, authentic engagement. It's all just to show people, oh my God, my post is getting a lot of hits, because people I know in my group I've told them to do this. And again, it's that entitled. I mean, you've said it really well, Adwoa, actually, like, because it's not authentic when you're having to ask someone, can you like, share, and comment on it? Because just let people go with how you feel. You don't owe anyone anything in this world, unfortunately. Like, this is the hard reality.
And I think the thing is, if your self-esteem is based on how many likes you get, and you know, you can post as much as you like. So the last post you put on Instagram gets 80 likes, and you go, oh, you know, you get that hit, that rush of why people like it, and then 5 minutes later you can put the next post up and you get 5 likes. It's this roller coaster effect, and you know, this is what we see happening. I am so glad. I've got 3 children as well, and I am so glad there's 2 in their 30s and 1 in their 20s, and you know, they grew up. We had one computer in the house that they all had to share to do their homework, and they used to load MSN on. They used to load MSN chat on when they had their turn, and then take it off before I got on there when they'd gone to bed. So they've grown up with it, but they haven't had to be, you know, a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old or a 14-year-old with Instagram, and having to deal with all of that as children, with parents that don't get it, that don't understand. I'm just so glad.
That is a whole.
And let me just say, girl, you are hot tamale about you got a 30-year-old children. You're looking good, girl. You are hot tamale. You better come on and shake it and show us what you're working with, girl. I'm sorry.
And everyone, this is why I love Adwoa.
Can we do this Friday?
No, but you know, so bringing it kind of back to human-driven engagement, because everything you all have said is spot on. But Cathryn, it's interesting, and you know what I'm coming to now, and you kind of led me there perfectly. You had a post online, which I would love you to tell everyone about in a moment, that went viral. Your intent wasn't for it to go viral. You were sharing a very human moment, and in fact, a moment that changed you in the moment. So your intent when you sat on that train was to do something different, and then you made a choice. So can you tell us about that?
Yes, I was, so this was 31st of May last year. I got on a train at Reading to go to Paddington, so it's a 24-minute journey, and horror of horrors, it was half term. So it was families and kids, and I wanted to work on the train. That's what my plan was. And I sat down, there was a mum with her 2 daughters on one side of the aisle, and then the other daughter was on the window seat. And I sat down in the aisle and I said to her, oh, you know, would you like to swap places so you can sit next to your mum? And she said, no, you know, I'd like to look out of the window. And I thought, okay, you know, I'll get my laptop out. She said, I can't remember what it was she said, but I thought, oh, that's interesting. You know, I'll talk to her. I'll answer her. And she's looking out of the window. And I started to engage with her, and she was engaging with me. I didn't get my laptop out for the whole journey. We covered in those 24 minutes. You know, I know what her favorite Disney princess was. She taught me how to draw a pretzel, which is a heart shape. Yeah, she kind of just showed me how to do it. She showed me her notebook, and I can't remember which way around it is. She said, yeah, this is my, it's a cheetah print on the cover. And I said, no, actually, I think it's a leopard print. And she said, no, it's cheetah. I said, oh, I'm sure it's leopard. And she said, well, when I get home, I'm going to check my my wildlife program, and you know, then we'll know for sure. Gorgeous little girl, not precocious at all. That, you know, absolutely not. And the way I actually started off my post on LinkedIn was by saying, you know, introducing it. I was offered a job this morning on the 9:45 train from Reading to Paddington, because I thought, you know, I do want to link this to the fact that I'm a career coach. So kind of what's the story? And so I just wrote down what happened, because towards the end of the journey, we were pulling into Paddington, and I said to her, I loved sitting next to you. Thank you so much. And, you know, maybe one day we'll meet again on a train and we'll be able to carry on, you know, the conversation. And she said, no, I don't think that's very likely. She said, but could you please give your mum my phone number, because we think you'd make a lovely babysitter. And it was, yeah, I know. So I walked away. I wrote this article that evening. I got 700,000 hits, about like 7,000 likes, 800 comments on the post, I think it was, just with a human story. But I, you know, and at the time I was going from that place of, why, you know, how did I not know it was half term? I can't use these 25 minutes on the train to work now, into the most brilliant human exchange. And she went away without knowing my name. I knew her name because she'd written it on her notebook. But people who actually commented on the post said, oh, you know, don't you want to try and find her? You know, this is a great news story. But no, absolutely not. You know, let's keep, you know, that innocence, that her trusting a stranger and opening up and sharing all of that was, well, it was just such a privilege for me.
Yeah, I love that story. I love it so much because, as you said, it's got the human element. It's got the fact that people engaged with it and saw the beauty in it. The way you relayed the story lets us know that you changed really quickly your mindset of, I got to get this work done. You know what? There's something more important happening here. And that's the part that I think we quite often lose. We still are intent on getting this done because this is what I need. And we're missing the moments. We're missing the moments of connection and engagement. And that is problematic if we're not even aware of why this matters, right?
And that's really interesting, looking at the people's comments that they actually put on the post. So I mean, I lost count of how many people posted their drawing of a pretzel. Because they wanted to try it out. And there were people saying, this is what humanity is all about. You know, let's just stop. And it was just lovely to see the impact that story had on people. And hopefully, hopefully that does, I think, those sorts of things, you want to have a ripple effect, and that they will then go on and maybe also listen to a child on a train, or remember, I don't have small children in my life now, but the magic of, children who are learning, who are curious, who are growing up in this world that, who knows what's going on. They are precious.
Yeah. I'm going to share two quite negative experiences. They're going to be short before I come back to you, Adwoa and Naz, with potentially positive examples of human engagement that you've experienced. So get your thinking caps on while I share these two. And they're really key because, again, it's not because they're my experience, but again, it shows you how things can stay with you. And Adwoa, I know that one of them, you will roll your eyes at because it's about TSA. We'll come to that one after though. So they are just so aggressive. When I went into hospital for cancer surgery, I ended up in hospital for a month. They had cut me from my ear all the way down to my neck. The scar's still there. You can't see it, and I'm not going to show it to you. Go read my book if you want to know more. Anyway, they had cut me, and my whole, I looked like an elephant woman. All of this was swollen. There was no kind of definition in my neck. I was very, very sick. I have had chronic illness for most of my life. Most days I'm in pain. Most days I have nausea. Some days I can't lift my head. I deal with this all the time, but I am an expert at hiding it. I'm great at it. After my cancer surgery, I could not hide anything. And so that month I spent in hospital, I needed medications, a variety of medications, one of which I still take now 3 times a day, cyclizine, which is an anti-nausea. In the hospital, though, they don't let you take your medication. They prescribe it to you and so on and so forth. When I was in that ward, I think they might have been short of staff. Can't remember. But they had bank staff who would come in and care for us sometimes. And I had asked for anti-nausea maybe 11 p.m. the night before. And I don't sleep. I'm terrible at sleeping. But I'd asked for anti-nausea. It hadn't come because they were short of staff and whatever. At around 5 a.m., a nurse came in, and I'm going to tell you that she was African. I don't know what part of Africa, which is why I'm using the generalization, and that she was black. And I'm telling you that for a reason, because I'm assuming that she saw my skin color and said, we're part of the same community, which is why she decided to tell me when I asked her about anti-nausea, you don't need it. It's mind over matter. I had just survived cancer surgery, didn't actually know, that I was going to survive it. Before that cancer surgery, I was given 3 months to live, all of this, so on and so forth. And there is this woman telling me that, who was bank staff, she'd never met me. She just came in to give us all, at 5 a.m. to give us all of our medication, telling me without knowing me that I didn't need what I had always needed. So that's the end of that story, but I say it because it stuck with me and it impacted the way I feel about sharing my vulnerability in case it's rejected with medical staff and so on and so forth. And this has been a prevailing thing in my life with medical situations. And then the second one, same feeling, different situation, going on a cruise, 2009 with the family. We were in Florida or New York, I forget. I don't know, we're in New York all the time. Was at the TSA. There was a line that you're not meant to cross. We weren't sure if we were in the right line because there are always 74 queues out there. So I stepped forward. My foot was halfway over the line. I stepped forward to say, just to ask the TSA agent, hi, I'm so sorry. Are we, before any, I said, hi, I'm so sorry. She started screaming at me, top of her voice in front of everyone. If you don't step back over that line, I'm going to send you home, blah, blah. Never met me. I was just asking a question, very polite, timid, and tears were pricking my eyes because there were thousands of people behind me. I hadn't done anything, yet that need to put me in my place and threaten me with more than just putting me in my place, but say, like, you will never enter this country again kind of thing, really impacted me. And there were two things about that. Number one, there was no human-driven engagement there. She was driven by, I don't know, by 9/11 or whatever it was, but it certainly wasn't human. And quite often, it is the what versus the how. So she could have told me that, but the how she told me could have been different. And the nurse could have said to me, actually, are you sure? What's the story? And again, it's the what versus the how. So, Adwoa, how do you feel about our stories, mine and Cathryn's stories? And do you have anything to say on that kind of the damage that interactions can do? And then do you have your own positive story? Because we're sandwiching.
We're trying to sandwich. I mean, goodness, human engagement, I think it's so, you said something really, really key, Sam. A lot of the times our human, Shae, I'm sorry guys, I've known her for a very long time.
I grew up as Sam, so like my middle name is Sam, so everyone who knew me from a young age knows me as that, but yeah.
It's my bad. Shae, please forgive me. Anyway, just edit that part out if you can. You said an amazing thing, Shae. A lot of the times our human interaction is based on experience, good, bad, or indifferent. And so listening to your stories and hearing the other side, I'm like, wow, those are responses from what we've been told. Because, you know, especially as Black women, we have been told a lot of the times we can take more than we should. We're strong Black women. Black women are supposed to be strong and, you know, you hold down the house. And so that filters into society to the point where when you know what's going on in your body, you're being told, no, you don't need it. You be strong. You know how you've been raised. And so I just find it so interesting. And I already know, America's TSA, they need deliverance because something wrong with that. They are on a power trip, but I also think that's because of the country. I mean, I grew up in Brooklyn, I grew up in New York, but I think America in general has this command that they feel that they have over people. So you just see experiences being vomited onto those who just want to have a good time or just want help. But then you have Cathryn's story that literally, because I literally was imagining it as if she was sitting next to my granddaughter, because my granddaughter would be that person. She'd be like, no, I don't want to sit next to my mom and my grandma. I'm looking and I'm doing something. And then, you know what I loved the most about that story? And I know this might sound really crazy. I love that she offered you a job. Like,
exactly.
I'm like, who is this little boss woman?
Exactly.
Who understood? I have the keys to the purse, and I know what we need. Like, for me, my mind was like, you know, she shared with you, and that's what I love. I love that she was able to be vulnerable enough to share with you what she loved, who she was, and that you were a trustworthy space. To the degree that she said, you're welcome in my home.
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
Wow, yeah.
How old are you?
Without my parents there. They're going out.
Like, I trust you. I've placed, and I think that conversation is the human desire. Like, can I give you my vulnerable spaces and you not drop them? And you not just take them for granted. Because, you know, Cathryn could have been like, oh, that's wonderful, darling. While still on her computer, while doing her thing. Oh, you're so cute. Yeah. But the fact that you fully engaged with her, let her know she's a trustworthy space. And I've only known her for 24 minutes. And at the end of that, I feel safe enough to say to this lady, I'll give you a good rep. I'll let my mom know, no, she's good people, mom. This is who we need. That for me blows my mind. And so I think, you know, when we think about this conversation, I think that's how we should always go in it. Like, anybody I interact with, anybody I meet, do they need a safe space at this moment in time?
Yeah.
Do they? Because the world is like, it's so hard. And people just live a life sometimes so alone because they just don't know who they can trust. And sometimes a 24-minute journey is all they need to know you're not alone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
sometimes a 30-second conversation with you're standing waiting for the tube. And you know what? You know, none of us is perfect, because my children will say, if I'm in, you know, tomorrow, if I'm in the queue at Tesco with one of my daughters, they're going to say to me, like they have, "Mum, you're so impatient. Don't be rude." And I go, "I'm not being rude. I'm just in a rush." You know, but you know, that poor guy with his Zimmer frame. I go, "What poor guy with his Zimmer frame?" So, you know, it's kind of, we need to be present as well.
Yes.
You know? And it's recognizing our humanity.
Definitely. I think it's like what you said earlier, Cathryn, the self-awareness. I think if we intentionally become more self-aware just of our surroundings, just of moments, you know, one of the things that I just find myself doing is if I'm in a park going for a walk, I will smile because I just don't know if they're going to see that. And I remember for my little short story, I was doing a walk in my local park, and there's an idea that I have because I'm trying to go into this filmmaking, directing situation that Shae knows I'm trying to step over into it. But there was an idea I had, and when I was walking around the park, I saw this elderly gentleman, and he was walking his dog, and the dog was elderly and he was elderly, and you just saw them plodding along. And I looked up at him and I gave him the biggest smile because I was like, "You're so adorable." And he smiled back, and I was like, "How are you?" And he was like, "I'm good." And we stood there for about 10 minutes, from this big smile to this "How are you?" And literally he just started to reel off where he's been, what he's done, the life that he's had, how he came to England. He was originally he was serving in the United States Army. And I mean, told me about his children in Chicago and how he was at one of the first openings of this. And I mean, just gave me his whole history. And I stood there and I said to him, "Thank you so much that you would trust me with something that so dear to your heart." But then at the same time, when I saw him giving me his stories, the way that his face lit up was like, wow, someone's actually interested. Like, they're not so busy trying to do their power walk to stop and just say, "How are you?" Like, and I think that is something that each and every one of your stories has shown me. You know, Cathryn's story was, "Hey, hi, how are you?" to an 8-year-old. But a young woman, I don't know if she was 8. I'm
seven.
Seven. Okay, yeah, I'm thinking about my granddaughter. But then also you, Shae, when the woman came into the room, it should have been like, "How are you? Are you okay?" Or the TSA agent, oh, are you okay? Because I see you step. You see are you okay? But we're so busy in trying to get over and do what we feel we need to do in that moment, in that time, or the way that our experiences have led us, that we almost miss, I think, like what Cathryn's saying, is that moment of compassion and just humility and ability to see someone else and be like, maybe I'm the only smile and the only "How are you?" they're going to get today. Do you know what I mean? So yeah.
We're absolutely missing the opportunity to communicate, collaborate, and learn, because we're so stuck in what my purpose is for me or the organization in that moment. Absolutely. Do
you know what came to me there was, and you know, this is really going to be ironic, I suppose is the word, given that I'm atheist, but when I remember reading this years ago, and I think it was attributed to Mother Teresa, and it was about, when I look at another person, I see God in their eyes, and that's who I'm looking to. And you go, that's how simple it is. That's how simple it is.
I'm taking that, Cathryn. I'm taking it.
Mother Teresa's, I think.
Yes, quick. Tell us your thoughts on it before Adwoa steals more of Cathryn's.
But I think you are right. Sometimes it is that one conversation, that one smile, that makes such a difference. Like, you could be having a really bad day, but knowing that there is that one person giving you that safe place, let's say it that way, for temporarily, you can forget what's happening in the outside world for a bit. And that is actually a blessing and something that I would never take for granted, actually. You know, the world, it's not perfect. It's not all doom and gloom as well. One thing you do learn is it's not always doom and gloom. When there is someone other, when I remember, I think I was having a really bad day once, and I was, oh my gosh, you know, when bad comes in threes, I actually felt that. And, you know, I had my fairy godmother, I refer to her as, because for me, she is my fairy godmother. He came into my life. And, you know, just out of nowhere, we don't share a blood relation, but she's very much like my grandmother. And she was like, okay, what's wrong? And she was like, okay, do one thing, come home. Come home. And, you know, over food, homemade food, I sat on her sofa eating away and just telling her that I've just had a really bad day today. And she was like, just tell me what's happened. And it was just, for me, it was a really nice moment. It was really cold, rainy outside. I was in the warm on her sofa, eating her food that she made. And just for someone to just listen to you. And that makes all the difference you want. And then, you know, after, when I left her house, I was like, you know what? It wasn't even as bad as I thought it was. That all my problems just seemed so much more smaller because I was able to just let it out. And you are right, what Adwoa said as well. Like, you might be the only person you see who's smiled at that person. You don't know what that other person is going through. And you can just make someone's day and you just don't even realise.
Yeah. Thank you. It's interesting because there's a Kirk Franklin song that came to mind when you said what you said, Cathryn, in relation to what Adwoa said. And it's something like, what if I'm the only God they see? Or, you know, the actual point they're making in that song is, if I'm the only goodness, kindness, safety, you know, shelter in the time of storm, if I'm the only thing, I need to live up to that. I need to be intentional. Like you said, Adwoa, I need to be intentional with giving what I have capacity to give. And that brings me on to the next question, and we will be wrapping up soon. But we're all sat here and we're talking about giving of ourselves, and we're all comfortable in this position. I'm not even sure how to answer the question, but I'm sure you will all know how to answer it. But the question is about safeguarding our capacity, knowing when it's okay to give, and knowing when right now, actually, let me allow God or anyone else or the universe, let me allow them to take care of this need because I don't have it. And I say that because I've been in that situation many times where I gave because it was the right thing to do, and because I'm like, well, I have what they need, but what I didn't have is what I needed. And that was just that I wasn't astute enough to know I didn't have capacity anymore in this moment. My well was emptying. So yeah, what do you think about that? Is there anything, and you know, just a couple of sentences or whatever, is there anything you have to say about safeguarding yourself and protecting your capacity?
Yeah, you go first, Cathryn. We just following your lead, girl. I'm gonna take everything you're saying, though.
For me, a huge learning was compassion for myself before I could be in a good place to help others. It was completely against everything I'd been taught. Because I went from, you know, early days of Sunday school where you're, you know, Jesus is precious lamb, you are this precious, to being, you know, in the Catholic faith, the biggest sinner that's ever walked the face of the earth, and repent ye shall. So it was all about, you know, you've got to be good, you've got to be out there for others, you've got to be giving, you've got to be giving. And, you know, my partner said to me a few months ago, she's very, very insightful. She said, what's your capacity? And I said, I don't even understand the word, because maybe it's unlimited. But what I do know is that I can motor on for 72 hours without sleeping because I'm on a mission. I'm talking, I'm working, I'm doing. But you know, I'm 55. I'm 56 years old. I cannot pick myself up like I used to be able to do. I have to look after myself first. So I referred then to, like, you know, Buddhist teachings around compassion for yourself first. so that you are then rich enough to be able to give to others. And it's about, for me, and it's something that I work with my clients all the time, you know, there are 3 key things that we need to be able to get out there every day. And it's sleep, it's nutritious food, and it's exercise. And if we're not doing any of those 3 things, we are not going out there as the best. Oh, the sun's just come out, as the best version of ourselves. And it's a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to do for women, because we're told, you know, you've got to be the person. You're the nurturer. You're the, you know, you can do anything, but we can't do everything. And if you're not looking after yourself first, we have to safeguard our capacity, to put it back into your words, Shae.
I agree with what Cathryn just said, because I know full well, like, if we don't take care of ourselves, we're not going to be able to do our work properly. I know last year when I got elected as a councillor, at the same time I also qualified as a solicitor, and working both, because I was learning the ropes for both new roles, and I was working around the clock. Now I'm a bit better at that. I give myself half days off, but before I wasn't. I'd work around the clock, and I did suffer like two burnouts in the space of 6 months. And when I had my burnouts, it literally meant I was ill and gone for a whole week at a time. So the fact that I was working so hard because I wanted to, you know, do my job properly, but it also meant that I wasn't productive during the weeks that I was having burnout. So there wasn't point not taking care of my own health if I couldn't even do my job properly after. So that's why one thing I learned was really important is learn to say no. Because as women, we are expected to be there. I don't know why there's this idea that women know how to multitask, know how to juggle everything. Actually, we don't. I don't think the sole responsibility falls on us, actually. So we're expected to balance everything together. So now I've learned to say no. When I see my schedule is looking very, very tight, I have to give my apologies. I say, I'm very sorry. I can't even come for 1 hour even, because it's not going to fit in. So now what I do is I do give myself half day off in the week. So in that half day off in the week, I do whatever I want to do. And I don't put any commitments in, because that's something everyone is entitled to, a bit of a break, because as I said, like, you have to be in the best of condition if you want to do your work or do the things that you enjoy, because there's no point having burnout. So now, thankfully, I haven't had burnouts in recent times.
Wonderful. We love that. Let me say this. I think, Cathryn, you said something that I'm taking again. You said women are told that we can do anything, but we can't do everything. And I think that paradigm shift is what a lot of us need, because we feel like anything and everything are the same thing.
Yeah.
And they're not. And then also with Naz, I love the fact that, you know, you're saying, I'm now giving myself this time to just fill my cup, because I'm always like, okay, have a week out sick or a week out on holiday. Which one would you prefer? I prefer a week holiday. And so if you know that you are constantly going in this space and this vein, put yourself first. For me, I have hit burnout more times than I like to admit. But one of the things that I really realized was, Adwoa, you cannot give from an empty cup. Yeah. I cannot pour from a cup that is not full. I cannot pour from a cup that isn't nourishing me first. I think so many times as women, like you guys have said, and we know this, we nourish everyone around us. We nourish family, we nourish kids, we nourish partners, we nourish workplaces, we nourish everything but the thing that is giving the nourishment. And so for me, I have been very intentional with myself to say, Adwoa, are you full? And if you are not full, pause everything else. And my family, I bring people in. I'm like, let me tell you something, y'all. If you don't want me to go crazy, you better leave me alone for about 5 minutes, because otherwise we're all going up. No, we're all going up in smoke. You know?
Going to hell in a handbasket.
You know, but I have just learned that no is my best friend, and sorry, I can't today. Because there is just a space that I realize if I'm not taking care of me, if my mind mentally, if I'm not there, and even like when you were saying that word capacity, because I love that, that's been like my trigger word this year and the ending of last year, because I really believe capacity is not a bad thing, because what it does is it shows you what you can and cannot hold. But sometimes when we're looking at our capacity, we're thinking of it from a standpoint that I can, like Cathryn said, I can do everything. That is crazy to think that, because something, and something is going to give. And so for me, when it comes to this subject, I am so keen on being good to me so I can be good to others.
Yeah, I love that. It's interesting that you mentioned about what you can hold, because and I'm going to share the screen in just a second as we wrap up. I deliver some EDI training, and on that training we do an exercise where I ask people to go and get a bowl of water, make sure it is nearly overflowing, and I ask them to hold the bowl in front. And then they're holding it, and I say, okay, I'm going to ask you a series of questions. And as I ask those questions, if it applies to you, remove a finger. And every time something applies to them, they remove a finger. And at the end, I'm like, how does it feel holding that bowl? How does it feel? Is the weight of it overflowing? And typically when we do that exercise, we're talking about how it feels for communities that are typically underrepresented, when you're asking them, but we're making it available for you. Just come in, just do this. And they've got two hands on a bowl that is overflowing, and they're just trying to keep the bowl upright. So that's what that made me think about.
Sam. I'm taking that, Shae.
Oh, you can take it from Sam. I don't know who that is.
Sam. I'm taking it from Shae. Shae, I'm taking that.
You just need to come onto one of my trainings. I'll invite you onto one of my trainings. So this is just a thought that I would love to leave you with before I ask you the final question each. So it's one, again, on my human-driven engagement training, I get them to think about this. We often operate from a place we think, We often operate from a place where we think a verbal answer is definitive confirmation. But the real answers are often found in the unspoken. The question is, how do we build relationships that afford us access to the unspoken? And it's not a question for you to answer now or anything. It's something that I want to leave with the listeners, with the viewers, when you're thinking about that human-centered, human-driven engagement. Remember that it's not just what people tell you. People will tell you what they think you want to hear quite often. When surveys are given out, typically we give the questions that we know will lead to the answers we want. So let's start also thinking about the things that are found in the unspoken. And then I've put together, and I know it's quite small on your screen, but I've put together a couple of key things that are key to driving human-driven engagement. So demonstrate appreciation, understand capacity, that's what we just discussed, take personal interest, Cathryn on the train, simplify routes to access and thereby progress, because most of us just want to progress along. But if I don't have access, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going in that direction. Learn to listen with humility. Listening, we're taught that active listening is, okay, what did you say? Body language in your direction. Let me just repeat what you said. But if I don't have the slightest bit of comprehension, I'm not actually going to be listening with humility. I'm just going to be repeating or following the steps of what active listening actually is. Understand the nuance in individuals, communities, and in our cultures. We're not all the same, but we're not all completely different. And that's really important. And then understand culture. Oh no, I was going to say I don't have 8 things. There are 8 things. Understand culture, inclusion, and belonging. And I know that these, like we spoke about before, the terminology might be a phase, but the principle will always stand. And then finally, take purposeful actions. And then final slide for you, because this is not a class. The benefits of that include it will build confidence, it aids effective collaboration, it impacts our lived experiences, unlocks potential, informs outcomes, and it empowers. And, why wouldn't we want to, engage in human-driven engagement? I use the word engage twice, but pretend you didn't hear it. Why wouldn't we want to? You know, it's so important. It is what makes us so amazing in the world. So in wrapping up, my final question to you is, and we're going to go around the screen in this order. So Naz, and then Cathryn, and then Adwoa. My final question to you is this. What would you say to anyone who wants to tap into their ability to drive connection in a human-driven way?
My answer would be a part of it. I always say start from the roots, start from the bottom, because there's no point being at the top, trying to make decisions about people's lives or processes if you actually don't even know how it works yourself. You need to start from the roots, speak with the people who it actually affects, and take it from there if that is what you want, the human-driven way and the way forward. And I think that's the best way to come up with a solution. And that's something I use in my day-to-day life as well. I would never be out there trying to think of how is this going to work. If I'm planning to make decisions, I'm like, I'll be there out there. That's why my mom will complain when I come home muddy because I was out there doing the gardening and sweeping, because if I don't do all of that, how am I going to learn? Thank you.
Thanks, Cathryn.
So I would say look for opportunities to engage every day. You know, we had, prior to the 3 years of COVID and pandemic and everything else, we had a minister for loneliness in Britain. I mean, what is that all about? That we actually need somebody in government to address this problem. So heaven knows, you know, we know the scale of that problem today, 3 years later, and the fear that people are living under, the fear that some people are still living under. So what I would say is look for opportunities to engage. Don't wait for people to reach out to you. Do what you can with what you've got from where you are. And that is the first step in the right direction.
Love that. I would basically say, and I think it just literally echoes what these amazing women have said, be open, be vulnerable, and don't be suspicious. I think so many times there's a suspicion towards people. If someone comes up to you or someone, you know, sometimes you'll be in a place and be like, why is she smiling at me? Maybe because she just wants to smile at you, you know, like, or someone comes up to you to ask you directions, but they're kind of flustered. You kind of back up like, wait a minute. You just like, I would say kind of ease. I'm not saying remove all of, you know, the warning bells and stuff, but just ease your suspicion down. Be open, be vulnerable, and just allow yourself to believe the best as far as you can, because people are just looking to feel like they belong.
What a perfect sentence to end on. People are just looking to feel like they belong. Oh, I love it. I love it. Thank you to all three of you for being on the panel today. I'm just going to ask you, is there anyone, because you know I'm all about paying it forward. Is there anyone that you want people to go and check out? It can be their social media, it can be a book, it can be anything. Are there any recommendations that you want to share with people? And again, let's just go in the same order. So Naz, is there anyone for you that you want people to go and check out?
Oh, interesting.
I know.
People to check out.
Again, it doesn't have to. You can give it to me after, and when this goes live, I can put it in the doobly-doo. So don't stress too much over it. Yeah. It's just an opportunity if you want one. So don't worry.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, so
can I go first? Can I go first?
You go first. You go first.
Because she's going to steal your stuff.
Because I'm going to steal it. I want you to go and follow Cathryn and Naz. I think sitting down with you two, no, I'm so serious. Sitting down with you two, all three of us being from different backgrounds, different belief systems, but literally listening to you guys, you fed me today. Like, I feel like my soul has been fed by amazing women. And I feel like sometimes, you know, we're sending people to all these wonderful spaces, but actually there's answers right before you. And so for me personally, I'm about to go and follow you guys. So if I'm going to follow you, I want everybody else to follow you, because you both shared from your hearts. And I feel so much more connected, and I feel so much more seen not even just from a standpoint of my thought process, but as a woman, I feel like you guys have really kind of poured into me. So I would say, please go and follow my amazing new sisters, and they can't get rid of me now. Cathryn and Naz. And obviously, if you are not following Shae, then I don't know what you're doing with your life. But yeah.
Right.
Thank you. And likewise. So we're going to be following each other in circles.
Yeah. That's a great idea. Sisters, keep in touch. Thank you.
Exactly. I would say, you know, and I suppose, you know, whether you want to follow this person or not, and it depends on your own political views, whatever. But at the beginning of this this talk, I mentioned the book, the Jess Phillips book, Truth to Power, Speaking Truth to Power. And it is just written in such a simple way about, you know, if you've got, if there's a grievance, if there's a thing that you want to work on, if there's, that there is a way of going about it that will get you results. And there are a way you can stand there and shout and scream as much as you like. People aren't going to listen. They might pay you off. They might whatever. They're not, there's a way of doing it. And it's just mapped out so beautifully in that book. So that's something, I've got those key steps. So if somebody's looking for a book to read, and to have a look at, you know, where action can have results, then, you know, that I think is a recommendation.
Thank you. And I've read quite a few of Cathryn's recommendations. They stand up. So definitely, Cathryn, as you were the last to speak, where can the people find you?
Find me, I mean, LinkedIn is where I live. So if you just have a look at my LinkedIn profile, it's Cathryn O'Donnelly. And I'm, you know, I offer, you know, anybody who comes across my profile who hasn't spoken to me, a half-hour chat. Let's have a chat. Let's see where it goes. That half-hour chat has led to some people setting up their own businesses because they never need to talk to me again. For other, it's conversations, it's connecting. I spoke to 320 people last year on a free half-hour chat to find out about their careers, and it's just amazing. So yeah, that's where to find me. Find me on LinkedIn.
Thank you. Now, where can the people find you?
So I can be found on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Just search Nazmin Chowdhury, and you should be able to find me there.
Amazing. Adwoa, where can the people find you?
Where can you find me? You can find me wherever there is fun. I'm joking. So I am found on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I do have a LinkedIn that I need to pay more attention to, but because I'm now friends with Cathryn, I will be in LinkedIn a lot more. So because I need to steal all her information and use it as mine. But no, so yeah, you can follow me, and it's Adwoa God's Girl Ramsay on most of them. But if you put in Adwoa Ramsay, I should pop up somewhere.
Amazing. Thank you so much. As Adwoa said earlier, I too have been fulfilled by this conversation. It's been fun, and it has been insightful and inspiring. So all that's left, and to you that are on the stream, you three ladies, don't leave. We're saying goodbye, but we're saying goodbye to everyone else. So all that's left for us to do is say goodbye. Bye.
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 Butterfly, butterfly, pretty butterfly. When I see you flap your wing, I know when it's time for spring. Butterfly, butterfly, pretty butterfly.